All right. Welcome back to the Board Drill Podcast. As always, I'm your host. With me is my co-host, Matt, who is just smiling awkwardly right now. And tonight we have a special guest. We're super excited. First of all, this is season 3. All right. Me and Matt, we talk about this every year. Never thought we would get through season 1. Never thought we'd do more than 10 episodes. We're now at season 3, episode 1, and we couldn't have a better guest. Coach Joey Wiles, formerly of St. Augustine. Coach, welcome to the Board Drill.
Well, just great to be here with two legends.
Yeah, so speaking of legends, Coach, obviously you're a former state championship winning coach, a personal friend of mine, but also a mentor, not only to me, but to so many coaches in North Florida. And I think that's an important thing I tell you. The reverence in which you are talked about in North Florida, and I know even Matt's heard about you in Orlando, is incredible. You are just one of those people that I am glad is in my life, and I'm going to brag on you every time. And I'm so happy to have you on the podcast.
Well, I feel the same. I've enjoyed my relationship with you, Kyle and Matt. Great to see you. If I don't think that reverence is held with the folks in the green and gold up at Nice, so maybe we'll skip them, but maybe some of the others.
Oh, Coach, just throwing body blows early. I love it. So, Coach, I'm excited about tonight's topic, right? This episode, even though we're shooting it now, is going to premiere in December. So if you're listening, you're like, duh, it's December. But right as people get out of the football season, we always talk about setting up those visits to colleges and things. And you and I had a great talk on this the other day where you said, you know, you have to prepare for these visits. And you talked to me a little bit. And I mean, I remember stopping you. We were at the Starbucks. And I said, Coach, hold on. This needs to be a podcast. Let's stop it right here. And we're going to pick it back up. So tell me about this process of setting up visits and then going on visits and then training your assistant coaches to be ready for this. Because, you know, you've told me it's a process, and I believe you.
Yeah, it's absolutely a process. And my very first year of coaching at East Coweta High School up in Noonan, Georgia, I had a guy, a mentor. I was only there 2 years, Vernon Kidd, but taught me more in those 2 years than I probably learned in my other 33 as a football coach. But anyway, he basically taught me, if you want to get great, you're going to have to go out and you're going to have to visit folks. And there's got to be a process to it. And I think, you know, if you're a head coach, there's a responsibility that you have to develop your staff. And there's different ways to do it. There's all kinds of ways. You can take them to clinics. You can have them look at videos. They can listen to podcasts. They can go on Zoom calls. But then the last one is going on a visit. And what the visit allows you that the others don't is to sit down with that person, talk to them about, what you want to know, but then hearing the things.
All right, we're back. Apparently the internet is struggling in the Palencia area tonight, but Coach has moved in his house. Hopefully it's working. So, Coach, you were just talking about getting everyone set up and how a coach has a responsibility to help, you know, educate his staff. So why don't you go ahead and try to pick up where you left off, and we'll go from there.
So, yeah, as a head football coach, I believe you have a responsibility to be involved in the development of your staff, just not only to improve your program, but them as individuals so they can move on, coordinate, and be a head coach. As I said, you know, there's clinics, videos, podcasts, Zoom calls, visits. And what I found over the years is that the visits are the most effective because you get to go sit down with them and ask questions, and they usually are going to tell you things that you're not going to find out in a video, you know, that they end up producing. Now, I believe the key, as I said, there's a process. I think number one and first is you have to develop a relationship with the person that you want to go visit or the college you want to go visit. So, you know, how do you do that? And I think there's a lot of different ways. You know, there's recruiters that come through, and I'll tell you a quick story. Bob Stoops came through Melbourne High School back in the 80s, and he was a young DB coach at K-State. And I just one time said, "Hey, coach, it was back when they were getting a little stipend, and if they stayed somewhere, they put it in their pocket." So I said, "Coach, you can stay with us. Lydia will make you dinner. We'll talk ball." Coach Stoops came over, spent the night, and just one time I've helped him out. He has been a huge mentor. Um, but that was a relationship. That's the way you build those. Going to clinics, you can go to a clinic, but after the clinic, don't go out and just leave. Go up to that coach
Yeah.
and talk to him and try to say, "Hey, I love what you did. Hey, could I give you a call? Could I shoot you an email or text you?" And those relationships, are just critical. And as an assistant, I know some coaches are a little bit worried about, how am I going to, I don't know anybody. I'm young.
Yeah.
Well, you go to your head coach and you go, hey, coach, look, I want to go learn something about DBs or quarterbacks. Who do you know that's really good out there that you can go and see? And that head coach usually is going to, make a phone call for you and kind of get you set up. But at the end of the day, you've got to have a relationship, because nowadays college coaches are so concerned about secrets and what gets out that they've got to trust the person that's coming in. So at the end of the day, the most critical thing is develop, a relationship. And I will tell you, this is something I did as a head coach, and head coaches out there might do this as well. When we would go to Glazier clinics, how coaches are. They want to all go hang out, and hang out in the lobby, and they all go to the same clinic. We would have, if I took 5, 6, 7 of my guys, I would label what session I wanted them to go to.
Yes.
And then they would take notes. We'd come back and we would meet. So it wouldn't be where everybody's hanging out together. So at the end of the day, all of those coaches now have an opportunity to develop some relationships. And
Coach, and I'm going to cut in right here. I think that's a great point. If you go to a Glazier, you do whatever, having that responsibility to go to your own stuff. And I was big on it, right? I wanted to go to every session I could. But I like the idea of coming back together and sharing notes on things that you've learned and everything. And I thought the best staffs I was on, and Matt, we did this at Oviedo and some other places, we always got to get, hey, what did you hear in that? Hey, what was cool in your session? And I really think, like you said, that creates a buy-in and camaraderie, but also getting things done and getting better. And that's such an important piece that I think doesn't always happen, right? We are all coaches, and we all know that one coach we see every year that goes to a clinic that is going to be at the bar, right? And that's just where he wants to, right? He's waiting to go to the bar and tell stories. And while I don't dislike that guy, I don't want to coach with that guy sometimes.
Absolutely. And the other way, you can develop relationships. You can develop relationships just like we did. You develop relationships with high school guys. It doesn't always have to be a college guy.
Correct.
But develop a relationship. Know who's. I always tell my guys, you guys don't have to worry about scheme. I want you to be the best coach at your position.
Yeah.
And you go to those guys that are really, really good. Tom McPherson and I played each other every year, but Tom McPherson and I would sit down every single year at the end of the season, and we would share ideas. He would ask me, "Hey, why'd you do that?" So, and I'd tell him. Now we might do something different the next time, but Tom was a good friend, and so you've got to figure out how to leverage relationships. How can you get that done? So that, in preparation wise, that is the very, that's the first thing. The second thing then is the preparing for that. And this is key. And I think a lot of coaches don't do this. So at the end of the year, you go through and you do your self scout and all that kind of stuff. And then you come and you meet with your head coach, but you compose a set of questions that you want to know about. And I think you get with your head coach If you're a head coach, maybe you get with your, another head coach, but you come up with the questions that you want to know about based on what you have learned from going through film. A quick, a real funny story. Tom McPherson, he called me one day. He goes, "Hey, I see you're speaking at a Glazier clinic about pressures." And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Are you kidding me?" He goes, "You don't pressure 10% of the time, and you're not very good at it." So I go, "Tom, you're crazy." And he goes, "No." So you know what I did? I went back and I looked at our pressures, and I go, "Crap, he's right." So I called a friend, Chuck Bresnahan, longtime college coach, and I said, "Hey, who is the best at pressuring, getting the quarterback?" He said, "There's a guy up at Pitt, Pat Narduzzi, back in the day, back in 2015, when he kind of started doing it. He was doing it Rhode Island beforehand. He said, they're running hot pressures. You need to get up there."
Yeah.
And I go, "Okay, who do I know?" So I knew Dave Warner, the quarterback coach. I called him. He said, "Hey, we're all going on vacation on offense." Flew up. I took a couple guys with me up there, learned the hot stuff, and I had questions for them. So I think number one, preparation, you have to have your questions.
Yeah.
The second thing that we always did, once we got the questions done, I always emailed them up to the place that we were going. And I think by emailing them, they now are going to be a little bit more, they're going to be a little bit more prepared maybe than they would before.
Yeah.
And I believe they look at it like, hey, these guys are serious. They're flying out of Jacksonville. They're coming to East Lansing. They've already sent their questions. So I think that's a critical piece, in going up there. And then you have to make sure that when you get up there, that they have time for you. So saying, "Hey, how much time do you have? When can we come?" All of those kind of things. And then obviously you have to make sure that you've got all the travel plans and all those little kind of things. I hate to say it, little things like this, making sure your coaches have the proper attire to wear when they go to the places, sitting down with them, going through their questions to make sure that they know what they're gonna ask.
Yeah, but coach, I think that's a piece of raising young coaches is teaching professionalism, teaching things like that. I mean, look, I don't work in football right now, but I work in a place where a lot of our young guys, we have to teach these basic things too as well. So it's not any different. A 23-year-old to a 26-year-old is still a 23-year-old to a 26-year-old. You got to teach them how to dress, what to say, posture, all these different things. So I completely agree with you. I really think in any place you're at, you have to do those little professionalism things. And, sometimes we have to do them with older guys, Matt. Every once in a while we've come across a few.
Absolutely. And coach, one of the things that I love about your method in there and what you're showing us is, I always try to get my coaches to go out and do these things, get them to the clinics. And it wasn't necessarily just for them to learn about something, but to feel that they could bring something back to the program and to kind of give them ownership for what they're doing in this off-season process and trying to build their confidence as an assistant.
Oh, great. Absolutely great point. And the one thing I think is very important for a young coach, and I don't remember who I heard this from, but the person said, make sure you are known for something. Make sure you're an expert in something. So when I tell them to go off, hey, I want you to be the best defensive line coach. I want staffs coming in wanting to talk to you. So great example, Kurt Stewart came to me years and years and years ago. Kurt didn't play high school football. He didn't play junior high. He never played football, but he was a smart guy and he was a hard worker. So I'd take Kurt different places and he fell in love with it. He is now kind of known throughout North Florida as one of the best there is out there. No, he's not coaching right now. But he is one of the very, very best out there. And if you think of Brian Braddock, what's Brian Braddock? Brian Braddock's a great defensive coach. He's a great DB coach. So these guys, I try to tell the young ones, I'm not interested in you going out how to, play, how to, install cover 3 versus 5 different formations, please come back if you're the corners coach and you teach me, hey, is pedal better? Is shuffle better? How do you, how do you teach press coverage?
Yeah.
How do you teach off man? Those are the things that I want to know. Once you become an expert, now I'm going to move you into a little bit more of a coordinator role, where we can sit and watch film on weekends and kind of learn there. So that in preparation, I think is very big. So, forming relationships, preparing for the visit, and now you get there. And what does that look like? So I have some funny stories here. So, the first thing is when we get there, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that you're not wearing jeans to go visit, Pat Narduzzi, or, we're up there, and you're not coming in jeans. You're not going to wear cargo shorts and a hoodie in to see these guys. We're going to be very professional. And a real funny story, we had gone to Michigan State. Nathaniel Woolner was with me. He's a DC up at Battleground Academy in Nashville now, doing a great job with Bobby Bentley and them. So it has snowed, and there is snow covering. There's a bench outside the hotel. So we are walking to get in the car, and he slips. He's got khakis. He has khakis. He's got his maroon jacket shirt on, looking sharp. He slips and kind of falls in the mud. Well, the mud up north, the snow and the dirt, it's mud. So he has on one side of his leg, he's got it's dirt all down the side. So I'm telling him, I said, Nathaniel, we're going to be early, so we need to go. So he starts driving, and all of a sudden he is not speaking to me. He's mad, and he's just driving, And I said, hey, do you want to go back and change? And all of a sudden, the steering wheel's going like the Batmobile making a quick turnaround. And we went back to the hotel, and he changed. But it goes to the fact that he wanted to be professional looking. I let him drive a couple miles, so he might look like a clown going in there. But we laugh about that. So I think dressing professional is very important. I think showing up early. I asked Harlan Barnett was our guest, or was our kind of our host, and he was wonderful. I said, Harlan, what time do you guys get there? And he said, well, we normally roll in about 7:00. I said, okay, we'll meet you there. So at 6:45, it's 30 degrees, and we're standing out front the front door waiting on him to get there. And I think it's important for them to know, hey, we've sent questions. We're at your facility. We're dressed nice. We're early. We're really serious about being here,
Correct.
I think other things, you walk in, you greet the secretary, you give them your card and say, hey, we're so happy to be here. Here's a card. Anything we can ever do for you. One time we went to Oklahoma. Mark Shelley was with me. We went in and met the secretary, and I go in and I'm talking to coach. I come out. Well, instead of Mark being in there with a coach, he's with the 3 secretaries stuffing bags for their clinic. And I'm going, Mark, we don't have to go that far. I want you to learn some football. He's hanging out with the secretaries, and we left, and they said, man, you guys are the best group that's ever been out here. I many times I either take collared shirts or some kind of gift to give the coach. I'll do that. Every time we offer, I'll say, Coach, hey, no, it's been late. We want to take you to dinner tonight.
Yeah.
So we go to dinner with them. We take them to dinner. And all of these things, all these kind of things make an impact on coaches, because you have to do something to separate yourself from everybody else that comes, So go ahead.
Sorry. No, I agree. I think all of these are great points. You went through, showing up on time and being properly dressed. And not only does that communicate that you're serious, it also communicates to them that they're not wasting their time, which for them at that level is very valuable, right? They, if you've never worked in the college football gambit, I was blessed to do it for a few years. You're working all the time. Like, you do get sick of being up there sometimes. And then you got to be up there for another couple extra hours for a high school coach. Having that professionalism, having that courtesy, being on time, all those things make that worthwhile for you as a coach or an assistant. And then you feel a lot better about it. If I'm sitting out there when, I was a lowly recruiting guy and I'm sitting there waiting on a coach and a recruit and they're 30, 40 minutes late, and I'm just sitting down there, right? I'm pissed off by the time they show up. I'm not going to act that way, but still you're completely annoyed.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, we got to skip this and I got to get you here and everything. So it definitely changes the experience. So I think those are really good points. And just understand that the person that you're going to that is helping you is taking the time out of their day and their normal job to help you. And yes, maybe it's a benefit to them in recruiting one day or something like that. But really at that moment, it's probably not that big of a benefit. They're doing it to help you. And so I think it's important for you to follow exactly what Coach Wiles just says. That's, that'll make everything go a lot more smoothly, if you will.
Absolutely. And another thing, all the guys want to go to the big name guys. When we had gone out to Oklahoma, it was, oh man, let's talk to Coach Venables. Coach Stoops put us in charge. He said, hey, we have a GA named Brandon Hall. And Brandon and I become good friends. He's come down. We're going to Disney together with our families. Well, Bob Stoops said, Brandon Hall knows as much, maybe more than the rest of us.
Yep.
So you find that GA that is around those guys all the time. They a lot of times might have a little bit more time, to spend with you. So, find that GA that is pretty knowledgeable.
And Coach, I got a good one about this one. So look, there are the guys that run, however you want to call it, the hypo-Briles systems. The play caller knows every facet of that offense. But then in a lot of places, the next guy who knows the most about it is the GA, not the wide receiver, the quarterback's coach, or anyone else. And a friend of mine learned this. I'm not going to say the school, but it's a Briles-esque school. And he had to figure out the GA and finally got that GA. And he said, oh my gosh, the amount of stuff I learned. He goes, but I had talked to the quarterbacks and wide receivers coach, and I got almost no information out of them. And I realized they only know the rules for their position. And it was kind of interesting to see that sometimes at the college level, it's the guy that makes the playbooks every day, right? And writes up the cards every day. Those guys that do all those tasks, well, they learn the whole offense because that's their job every day. So that's such a good point that, don't be mean to the GA, because that guy, A, could be a coach, big time coach one day. And then B, he does all the grunt work. So I promise you, he knows the system.
Yeah, you've no idea. I mean, the number of guys I've met that were GAs that are now coordinators and head coaches. There's one other thing, as you go in and meet with those coaches and go through your questions, keep the coach on track.
Yeah.
You'll go up there to learn certain things, and all of a sudden, they might say something, and all of a sudden, they might say, hey, this is really good. All of a sudden you go off on a tangent and you don't answer a lot of the questions, that you have. And I've had to so many times just go, and maybe one of the worst ones, and he's a great coach, is Brent Venables. Oh my God. He has more defense than it was crazy. And I go, I'd have to bring back, coach. This is where we're at. This is what we want to get. So I think that's another piece to the puzzle when you go to visit. So that's kind of a little bit about the visit piece of it, and then I think the post visit. Okay, everything's done. We've had a great visit. We're going to dinner with the coaches. I think now, what do you do with that information? So the first thing when you get back is you make your coaches sit down and handwrite a card or a letter, not an email, but a handwritten note, and shoot that up there to those guys. I think that's super important. And that makes a difference because people don't, handwrite things anymore.
Correct.
It's everything's text or email. So do that. The other thing I would do is I would usually send a handwritten note to the head coach and just say, "Hey, I want you to know, when we went to Michigan State or wherever we went, we would send an email and say, hey, Harlan Barnett not only gave us great information, he answered our questions, he bragged on the program, he bragged on you and the culture of the program. He's a great ambassador to Michigan State. So you have everything from, step one, get those relationships, then preparing for the visit, get ready. Then when you go through your visit, find out what you got to do. And then when you get back, there's still more to do. You make sure, I believe, and I'm a big Good to Great. I love that book. It's probably my favorite. Level 5 leaders are different than, and that's why so many programs are the great ones really stick out.
Yeah.
They think of all the things, the little things. They compliment people. They write, handwritten note cards, things like that. So, we would always do that as well. So, in a nutshell, that's a kind of a little bit, about what we do. I think there are, going back to the very first thing we talked about is, how can coaches learn, the clinic piece, making those clinics go to those, certain speakers. I think videos are great. You can go on, you can go on. Nick Saban's got a bunch of videos out there, but I promise you, Nick Saban's not telling the secrets. He's not doing that. But still, they're okay. There's a lot of drills that you can get online and those will help you come up with your questions. The podcasts are great. A lot of information.
Yeah, those are, between the videos and those, it's just like you said. And I remember having this problem. We needed to learn how to blitz the tight end. We went back and looked at it and we're like, we blitz every place on earth but the tight end, and it's a tell. And so I went in and happened to get on it was during COVID, got on a one-on-one with an Alabama assistant, which was great. I'm not going to tell who it is or anything. But not only did we go through how they pressure the tight end, I said, well, hey, what's the adjustment? I was able to ask those follow-up questions where if I just watched a video, I would have gotten the base pressure. But then I want to know, well, what happens against motion? What do you do here? Mm-hmm. And I think, like you said, in person, you can ask all those clarifying questions. If you're watching a video, don't get me wrong, it's great. And obviously we do some of that stuff, but I can't follow up a question. Hey, what happens if this happens? Yeah. Right? In a video, I show, I draw something up for you and it's like you're getting that look and that pressure.
Yeah.
And no other stimulus. So again, everything looks great on paper till, they go in motion or they shift a bunch or, or they explode out of the backfield. And then you're like, oh crap, what do we do now?
Yeah.
So I think you make a great point on that one.
I think there's a place for Zoom calls. If you're a program, let's say you don't have a lot of money and you can't take your coaches, you can't fly 4 coaches up to East Lansing.
Yeah.
So, I know recently, Kevin Wilson was a long time. He was head coach. He was with Coach Stoops and he was a head coach at Indiana, then went to Ohio State. When he was the OC at Ohio State, I called him. His daughter did an internship with me at Flagler. So I've had a long-term relationship with him. So I called him. I said, hey man, you guys are playing some great defense. Is there any way, I could talk to somebody up there? So he got me in touch with a safeties coach. Won't say who it is. And he said, hey, how about if I set up a Zoom, you guys talk and you can ask questions. And then, if you want to go further, then let's get you up there. We'll find a time. So I was able to talk with the safeties coach at Ohio State when Coach Knowles had gone there initially. So Zoom calls are good. They're not expensive. And they
Correct.
might give you kind of an idea if you want to go up and visit that school, because if you invest, you want to make sure you come back with the
Correct.
information. And I will say this too, I was never afraid of spending money if it was, and I'm saying personally myself, where I would spend my own money to go to a place.
Yeah.
And I think, are you a coach where it's a hobby or a passion? I don't think it's either hobby or passion.
Correct.
I don't think there's, I don't know if there's an in between.
I don't think there is. If there is, I've never met it. But Coach, now I got one for you. You'll appreciate this. The Zoom ones. There are some Zoom seminars they do where they let multiple coaches on, and then they can type in questions. So Pete Golding, when he's at Alabama, does one. I know the GA running the session and taking the questions. I am with a local coach that Sean McIntyre. He's the head coach at Creekside. And me and Sean are sitting there with his defensive staff, and they're feeding me questions, and I'm feeding them to this GA to make sure that Pete Golding answers my questions first. And I'm keeping the names the way it is, and everyone's spread out now, so it's fine. But it's one of the funniest things ever. We got, obviously they answered a bunch of questions, but the 5 or 6 questions we had got immediately answered by Pete Golding on the whiteboard going through it. And it was the funniest thing to me. I can tell that story now because this is years ago. But I was always dying laughing. I was like, all right, what questions you guys have? And I'll make sure he answers them. And they were like, how is he going to answer just your questions? I was like, relax, I got this.
Well, you bring up Sean McIntyre, who interesting. I was actually on the selection committee when he got the Creekside job.
Yeah.
Well, Sean's dad hired me at Melbourne High School back in 1986, I think it was 84, somewhere like that. But interestingly enough, high school coaches that go and visit, like Sean he went to Army recently. Well, if you're smart, you go to Sean McIntyre and say, hey, Sean, you know what? Talk to me. I might want to learn the base defense up there. Tell me about what they do off season, their conditioning program. So I don't understand sometimes why there aren't more guys like yourself that go to high school guys that visit places all over the place, and they don't try to learn that way because we're willing to share with we'll share with anybody.
Well, Coach, it's part of it's ego. Part of it's I play that guy and stuff like that. But no, there are guys like Sean, and there are several guys in St. Johns County. I mean, Braddock would talk to you about stuff and those guys, and because they've talked to me before. It's going to those guys and say, hey, what did you learn there? Or at least something that's hey, what do you learn strength and conditioning there? What do you do here? And all those things of like, look, that's not, if I teach you one cool strength and conditioning thing, it's not going to make you win on a Friday night. And if it does, then you got bigger problems. All right. Because if the one strength and conditioning tip you gave away lost you the game, you probably need to visit more places. So
there's another thing, being on visit, that just kind of spurred me to think of. But when you go up there, I take pictures of every sign that's up there because it gives me an idea of the culture. And I loved Michigan State. I keep coming back to them because they were a blue collar. They get 3-star guys. And the one thing coaches told me about them is they were great at developing players. So they take the 3 stars, develop them, and then they're competing with Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, those guys. But we went up, and then we went in the weight room, and we saw them work out in the weight room. And we came back to St. Aug, and our whole thing was earn the jersey, and we were called we called each other that year Spartan Jackets. And we had wristbands and all the cultural type things that you get by going there. But if you don't go there, you don't get that.
Yeah.
And cultures, obviously, it's a word that I think's overused. But I think it is important. I did learn from, going to sit with Corky Rogers millions of times. Good to Great says that the companies that were great have a cult-like environment.
Yeah.
And Bowles was like that when Corky was there. You didn't hear much about him, and you would go visit him, and it was the same practice every day, same drills every day. And they were kind of cultish, they weren't out everywhere. So I think that culture piece is important. We tried to kind of be a little bit, I admire, I think Corky Rogers, people, talk about, Bowles recruits and all that kind of stuff. We go up and I take my staff and we leave there and go, we got better kids than they do. We got better looking kids than they do, but they always win. So what are they doing? So
correct.
Go hang around those people. If you're a young coach, find those people and go hang around them.
And they'll let you do it and all that stuff. And Coach, so a couple questions I got for you. First one is, did you read the book on culture I told you to buy the other day?
Yes, I did.
Did you like it?
Yes, I did. Yep.
Okay.
I sure did. I bought it. I should have brought it. I should have it here. Yep. Two Thieves.
It's sitting right over here, right?
It was a good one. I sure did.
It was a good one. So that was the first one. The second question I have is, all right, looking back at it, you visited a bunch of different places. If you could visit any program today, I give you a free plane ticket right now, and you can go hang out. Who are you picking?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot here, Coach.
I would pick Oklahoma, and the big reason it would be Oklahoma is I'm very close with Brandon Hall. I'm a 4-down guy. I like 4 down. They're 4 down there. I think they do a great job of moving the front guys. And Brandon's the secondary coach. And I think, everything's hard to coach. But the secondary that's responsible for pretty much all your adjustments, it's that guy in the back end.
Yep.
And, Brandon's been a good friend for many, many years. He's been a coordinator at Troy. He's been a lot of different places. So selfishly, it would be there. I will tell you this. I think a great local guy to visit down at UCF is Mark D'Onofrio. So Mark was an All-American at Penn State. Tell you a quick story. I called Mark and said, hey, Mark, I'm a Penn State guy. He goes, oh, yeah, I remember you. You came to Rutgers at camp when I was at Rutgers and everything. I said, hey, can I come down, just talk run fits with a linebacker? That's it. That's all I want to talk about. I get down there, and I'm thinking, I'll be there an hour or so, maybe 2. I come in. He shuts the door. I leave 6 hours later. And it was run fits. And he would go through the run fits. And we would watch at least 25 clips of that one flow read.
Yeah.
So all the different, he had like 5 flow reads. So we watched every one. We saw 25 clips. What I loved about it, he made sure I knew it before I left.
Yeah.
So I think UCF, I think he is outstanding. As far as linebackers go, he'd be phenomenal. So UCF's just down the road. I know they're gonna be pretty good too. So
yeah, Matt, where are you going?
Very good. Right
I
now,
think everyone knows where I'm going.
Do we? Indiana?
Maybe, but you know where I'm really going. I get a free plane ticket.
Yeah,
I'm taking it to the furthest place possible, and we know where that is. The Dakotas, baby. I'm going up there to Fargo, and I'm hanging out with that DC. Because whatever they got cooking up there in Fargo this year and every year, I'm going to listen to the Bison talk. I'm the guy picking the FCS school to go visit. So
they're good.
Yeah,
and I'm also a 4-down guy, Coach. So I'm with you. I got to go see a 4-down team.
What's funny, and I kill these guys. So Brian, and Brian will tell you, hey, they say, hey, we're 3 down, but they go, we we're field reduction bound.
Yeah, he's a reduction team.
I go, you're not 3 down. You're 4 down. You're moving to 4 down. And Tim Krause, I told him the same thing. I said, man, you guys all say you're 3 down, but you're bringing a 4th guy. That's 4 down. You're. So
I think it's the space. Yeah, they always say the spacing in it, right? Because there's even run fits and odd run fits are definitely different. I think that's where it comes in, but it is what it is. All right, Matt, I've given you enough time. Where are you going?
Oh, I'm going to Lubbock. We're going to go check out what they're doing now over there in Texas Tech right now. Pretty good stuff.
They're pretty fun. Matt, if you're listening, this will have been a while back now because it's December, but Matt wrote a 3-part series on the squeeze formations that Texas Tech was running, and they are right now on offense. They're doing some wild stuff, so it is fun.
Some great stuff.
Well, and those the oil men are paying those guys.
That's true.
Yeah. Good paychecks given
you can get hit with the tortilla and everything.
Hey,
I know they ban that, but maybe they'll still throw one at you, Matt.
Yeah,
hey, we get some rogue ones out every once in a while out there.
Yeah, they're doing it. Man, Texas A&M. Woo.
Yeah,
Elko.
Yeah, woo. Absolutely.
All the schools, but the who's the wild one in FCS now. The University of Texas Rio Grande Valley first-year program, they just beat the crap out of Incarnate Word. They put up 50-something points.
Really?
First-year program, Coach.
The most explosive offense in the country.
Yeah. Now, they did start off by playing a couple D2 schools, but I'll tell you what, I don't care. They're fun to watch, Coach, on film.
One other thing, some high school guys will go, well, don't go to Division I. We don't have Division I players. Well, those Division I's are playing other Division I's. So
correct.
It's not,
it's all relative.
It all is. And you know what your kids can do and can't do. And I was talking just recently to Dan Dish. Dan, he's awesome. He's trying to get me to come coordinate the defense over in Germany. He says the beer is really good over there.
Ooh, I bet.
Says. But he told me, we were talking yesterday on my way home from Bishop Kenny, and he said, look, he goes, you can't be good at cover 3 and quarters because of all the variations in cover 3. He is very, very adamant of you can't be good. You can be good at cover 3 and probably man, or you can be good at quarters and cover man. But if you're trying to do everything in quarters, all the adjustments in cover 3 and play man, you can't do it. So I think sometimes, younger coaches have a tendency of trying to do a little bit too much.
Yeah, and Coach, I'll combat that with one thing. Since we ran match quarters and we ran Rip Liz, they are very similar if you do those two things. So it did work. But there's a difference between running zone and that. So
right.
But I'm also a crazy person, so I enjoy being crazy. So
yeah.
Well, Coach,
I got something, Kyle.
Ahead,
hold on. Because
I was going to ask our last question, but you go ahead.
I'm going to lead you into the last question. I just want to throw something out there for Coach because he brought me back to me as a young coach when he was talking about going on these visits. We didn't do a lot of visits when I was a young coach with other staffs, but I had the luxury of being in New Smyrna Beach for several years. And coaches would end up, that's where they wanted to stay, right? That's where they wanted to end their day.
Yep.
And I learned very quickly from our head coach there hey, we know we got them for the night. They're going to end up over here somewhere. They're going to be staying over here somewhere. We're going to take them out to dinner. We're going to make sure when they're in town, we're getting the most out of them. And we would turn those visits, those recruiting visits, into clinics, right? Yeah. Our head coach is very good about getting those guys on the board, getting us sat down there after practice. Let's get them back inside. Let's get on the board, and then let's go to dinner, right? And, we didn't understand it at the time that why is the head coach sending us to take out his buddies to dinner, that he knows. Well, he was letting us establish those relationships with those guys to help us down the road. We just didn't see it in time. So everything you're said tonight makes, looking back, made perfect sense to me. So when I became a head coach, I tried to emulate that. And every time somebody was coming on a recruiting visit, I had one question for them. What's the one thing you do in your program that's the best thing you do in your program, whether it's a play or anything. So that's kind of where that came from. And I think me and Kyle kind of took it and put it to the podcast. So throwing it to Kyle. Go ahead.
So Coach Wiles, we ask every coach this comes on the podcast, what's the most interesting or different thing your programs have done that no one else does?
Holy cow.
Yep.
Well, I think it used to be, I think, well, there's two. One is our method of punishment.
Here we go.
You'll like this one, our method of punishment. So, kid comes late, you run him, all that kind of stuff. You can you can crawl him, do all that stuff. Well, what we ended up doing, we had these telephone poles, and we cut these poles where they would put them on their back and kind of hold them. And we called them logs. We'd say, hey, you got logs today. Well, it kind of got around where I sent an email to teachers. I said, hey, if any of you guys have any problems with these knuckleheads of mine, you just email me. So it got around how we were punishing them. So there were teachers that would say, hey, you know what? You don't sit down. Coach will have an email and you got logs. And after you do logs a couple times, so as everybody's stretching, they're carrying them around the field. I said, you can carry them, like this. You can put them on your back, however you want to do it. And after you do logs a couple times, you don't ever want to do them again. So that was one thing. I don't know if that's, and then another one I think was good, and you probably heard of it. We do burning of the shoes. Brent Martineau's covered it quite a few times. And it's just where all the seniors have an opportunity to say something. We get the shoes, we light the fire, and we burn shoes the whole time they're talking, just to say, the role you played here, your shoes will never be filled, whether you were first, whether you never played or you were starter. And I think that's something our kids look forward to every single year. So I would say burning of the shoes, and then if you really want something unique, the logs, were really good.
Coach, did the burning of the shoes start with you?
No. So that actually started when I was a head coach at Melbourne High. The head coach at Rockledge, Chuck Wood, played at Ole Miss. And they did it at Ole Miss back in, back in the 70s or whatever. And he brought it to Rockledge. And I went up and visited him one time, and I went and watched it. And I said, man, this is great.
Yeah.
So I didn't do it at Melbourne because he was doing it there.
Yeah.
So when I came up here, I didn't hear of anybody doing it. And I said, man, we're going to start this. And, I always gave credit to Chuck. It's where it came from. Interestingly enough, once I moved up here, who do we play our first state title game in 2001? Chuck Wood at Rockledge. Yeah. And he wears us out. So small world.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been on two different staffs that have done burning of the shoes, and always liked it, but never knew where it came from. I was like, clearly it's something all of these guys have done at some point, and shocker that I've now found the point at which it came from. I know you got it from someone else, but here in North Florida, a lot of people do it. Now I know the origin point of that one. So
yeah, it was from Chuck, and they did it back in Ole Miss years and years ago.
There you go.
So
that's wild. This is why I love talking to you, Coach. I always learn something, whether it's where the term palms came from or where the burning of the shoes originated. So
yeah.
Well, Coach, thanks for joining us tonight. It was awesome. I appreciate you coming on. You're always a welcome guest on the Board Drill anytime. And you and I probably have many years of talking football at the Starbucks ahead of us.
Yeah. Matt, good seeing you. Thanks, Coach. Thanks for having me tonight, Kyle.
Hey, I appreciate it. Hey, we could have listened to that all night.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I appreciate it.
Coach, we got to get Matt to the Starbucks. All right. I've told him about the legendary Starbucks.
Matt, that is where all of the big questions, our staff with Brian Braddock and Nathaniel Woolner, every year we would meet there. And the first question is, in ISO, in the A gap, are we going to box or are we going to spill? And that's what every year it started with that. And then we move forward.
I love it.
Go.
Love it. It's awesome. Well, for me, for Matt, for Coach Wiles, we're signing off. We'll see you next week on the Board Drill Podcast.